because he complains so much, I guarantee you there are times that he does get fouled where he could actually lobby for a call and maybe actually get the call, except that all he's done is talk the whole game, and officials get tired of hearing that.
Greetings and salutations, and welcome to the Odd Coaches Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Keith Adams, and with me today on this Wind Up Wednesday edition, full house, starting with academic and athletic consultant for the CKSA Project and college baseball aficionado, George Ockert. George, how you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm just biased that we keep having and not having that as a segment. We're going to have to talk about that. So,
and our favorite administrator, Robert Abney. Robert, how are you?
As always, sir, living the dream. I'm with George. I think we need a college baseball segment, man. There's a lot going on there, man.
Yes,
You want to talk about some mayhem? There you go.
Yes, sir.
All right. So, in segment one, NBA Finals recap. It should be done by the time this comes out, but we'll digress. In segment two, we will talk about the logo himself, the legendary late great Jerry West. And in segment three, we will talk all things WNBA. But first, before we talk about Boston's dominance, minus game five, and we'll have somebody address that, let's talk about Dallas. Dallas is the team we thought they were going to be. When these playoffs started way back when, I thought when Bush came to shove in the postseason, Dallas lacked the insides, as Bret Hart would say, to play next level defense. And man, they did it. Throughout the Western Conference playoffs, they overperformed while the rest of the West underperformed. And don't let game four fool you. Dallas just they came in on it. To top it off, Luka Doncic, who is a great player, and we will never take that away, he acknowledged his frustrations. But again, Luka has been doing the official thing since he was 16, and nobody's checked him on it. On a couple of occasions, people openly saw on a national audience Luka stop playing to talk to the officials. Then Brian Windhorst comes out and says things publicly, controversially. It wasn't controversial. People have been saying that about Luka since he started playing. So I brought Robert on because he is our official as well. And I wanted Robert to have the first thoughts on what did you think about Luka, all the officiating talk. Robert, the floor is yours.
So, I mean, and we've talked about this before. Luka is not in general, he's not a good defender. He's a bad defender. And in game three, that was a game that was very winnable for his team, but he put them in a bad position because he decided he was going to try to draw a charge with 4 minutes left in the game. And he actually was angry that his coach didn't challenge the play, and it was a block. I mean, it's every day, twice on Sunday. And the problem with trying to talk to the officials is the next time an official changes a call because a player complains, that'll be the first time that happens, because nobody's going to go, whoop, okay, hold up. You know what, Luka, you're right. We're going to change that call. And, that'll be the first time that happens. And the other thing is, because he complains so much, I guarantee you there are times that he does get fouled where he could actually lobby for a call and maybe actually get the call, except that all he's done is talk the whole game, and officials get tired of hearing that. I can tell you when I'm working games and there are guys who are talking the whole game, it's like, you've complained the whole game. What do you want me to do? And there may be a little bit of that going on with him. He was better in game four, but I mean, I think you can throw game 4 out. I think the Celtics had already decided that,
They want to win in Boston.
yeah, they wanted to win it in Boston so that they wouldn't have to, so that they could celebrate at home, and, have the duck boat parade ready, sooner. But that's just me. Anyway, he needs to quit talking to the officials because it's not getting him anywhere. And he's a better player when he's not talking to them.
All right. So, Mike, you have said this throughout the year, throughout his career. Any thoughts on Luka before we tag the George to talk Boston?
This is LeBron's NBA, and everyone complains to the officials. Everybody. Luka learned from LeBron, except LeBron gets the call, so Luka doesn't. He definitely plays better when he's not focused on the officials. That happened in the Thunder series. They lost, I think, the 2 games where he was complaining the whole time. No. They lost one of the 2 games. He was complaining the whole time. The closeout game, the Thunder took the lead into the 4th, or had a lead in the 4th, and then he got every call. They do it because it usually works. At least in the regular season, it works when they're playing, nobody teams. Then you get to the playoffs, and complaining doesn't work as well. I think personally, you shouldn't be able to take it completely out of the game. It should be make it a tech. The only person talking to the officials is the coach. Done. You want to get it out of the game, that's how you get out of the game. Because for me, watching the NBA, any game you watch, the whole time it's complaining. It's complaining. There's a foul on every single play. If you ask the person who shot the ball, and it's too much.
Right. So, George, Boston, you've been a fan of how they played all year. Go ahead, Mark.
I'm sorry. I just want to jump in with one more thing because it just occurred to me. My wife has been watching the finals with me, and we're watching the game, and she'll ask, "Is that a foul?" I'm like, I have no idea what the rules are in the NBA, so I don't really know what a foul is or not. I got to admit that the NBA it's a different game. The officials are the best in the world, but they're officiating a different game.
All right. So, George, I'm sorry Will's not here to eat this crow, but Boston should get their roses. They have performed, even though the rest of the East has underperformed. And Boston can win it again. Go ahead and share your thoughts on the Celtics as they cap off this championship. Yes, we spoke it in the truth.
I think we're just seeing who Boston's been all year. They have elite defenders. They have at least 5 or 4 guys on the floor that can create their own shot all by themselves. What makes them real dangerous is the fact that everybody on the wing is 6'5" and up, that can all handle the ball, can all score it well, and can all shoot. And that's where Luka and the rest of them are having problems right now because who does Dallas have that's effective to the point where foot speed wise and stuff, they can stay in front of somebody on a regular basis. And that's where the defense is falling short. And the bottom line with it is, I don't know if there's a better tag team in the NBA than Tatum and Brown. Even though we have our detractors, and Will sit here and talk about how boring Tatum is and he doesn't take over at times, or Brown will shoot you out of game. Yeah, these things, it happens from time to time, but it doesn't happen enough to beat them. And usually when one of them is off, the team adapts and they find other ways. And the real big one is they have role players that step up. Whether it's my bald-headed man now who should have cut that off 3 years before instead of the Bush or whoever. And when they have the freak of nature out there at the same Porzingis at the same time, it makes them literally deadly. And I don't care. We can go through the litany list of NBA teams. I don't know who can guard them regularly in a 7-game series. They are a hard matchup for everybody. So, and that's what we've seen. What we've seen basically is a better team. Dallas found ways or chinks in the armor of everybody, whether it was Minnesota or OKC leading up to it. And they did, and they kept going back to those plays to beat them. The teams didn't adapt. And we're now at a point where Dallas has run out of bullets in the gun with a team that can adapt to anything. And I think that's what makes Boston so dangerous, because I don't know of a game, a set, or anything that you put in front of them that they can't adapt to. And that's basically what it comes down to right now.
Yeah, and in the East, moving forward as we start to preview next year, ain't but so much these teams can do, and Boston's core is pretty much signed.
Yeah.
In terms of contracts. Now there will be ridiculous contract levels, and we've talked a little bit about the differing levels there. But Mike, you watch the West more than any of us. Dallas is done. That no matter what Luka does or refs or whatever, the West is not getting worse. The West is getting better. Moving forward, who are the top teams coming into the West, and where does Dallas fit? Mike, what do you think?
I mean, OKC, Minnesota are your two young teams that are just going to get better for the next 5 to 7 years, where they should be really, really good. The team Denver won't be out of it, at least not in the next 2 to 3 year window. Dallas is going to have to. I mean, I don't think Dallas is out of it. I just think teams like the Kings that are pretty good on paper, and the Suns, and I don't see it. There's just too much ahead of them that are younger and going to get better. But I'm just hoping OKC could add some size, because I think OKC is a better matchup for Boston than the Mavericks.
Robert, you're our Texas correspondent. I'm sorry, I can't see Dallas doing this again. With everybody getting better, am I being too hard, or what do you think?
No, I don't think. I mean, the right now the Mavericks are Luka and Kyrie. They have caught lightning in a bottle that's gotten them to the finals. I think that the matchups have been favorable for them, and until now. And they're getting exposed because the matchup isn't as good for them. I'm down in, I'm a couple hours from DFW, and I'm also a couple hours from San Antonio, but this is Spurs country down here, because the Austin has the Spurs G League team. So all everybody talks about down here is Wemby and who they drafted now. And, given that it's the Spurs, I would say, okay, who is the best international player available? And that's who they're going to draft. I don't know who it is. I'm just telling you, that's who they're going to draft.
And that's next week's show, talking about the draft. But when we get back, we're going to talk about the logo. We're also going to talk Lakers coaching search. Be right back on the Odd Coaches Podcast.
Why should student athletes use the CKA SAVE Project academic and athletic consulting services? Over the past 15 to 20 years, colleges, universities, professional sports teams, business organizations, and others have increased their use of consulting services to improve their decision-making processes and results. Over the same time, the athletic and academic landscape has changed for high school and college student athletes, as the NCAA has raised initial academic eligibility requirements for student athletes while decreasing the number of transfer restrictions. Former college student athletes have noted that they were academic and athletically unprepared for the rigors of college. Let the CKA SAVE Project's close to 30 years of academic and athletic experience help guide student athletes to increase success as we work to help student athletes achieve the goal of obtaining a college degree. For more information, contact Dr. Keith Adams by email at cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Welcome back to the Odd Coaches Podcast in segment 2. We lost a legend. First of all, his nickname as a player was Mr. Clutch. But Jerry West, pretty much since 1960, has been a part of the NBA fabric as a player, briefly as a coach, as a GM, and as a contributor, multi-time member of the NBA Hall of Fame, not only as a player himself as an individual, but as a member of the 1960 U.S. Olympic team. He's going to be enshrined a third time later this year as a contributor. He played 14 seasons and was an all-star 14 times and made All-NBA a dozen times. He averaged 27, 5, and 6 for his entire career. At the time of his retirement, pre-3-point line, he had over 25,000 points. He was named Finals MVP, and he played for the losing team. And fellas, and I'm going to let Robert start off with this. The year he was drafted, it was him and Oscar Robinson as numbers 1 and 2. That right there has got to be one of the 5 greatest drafts ever. Robert, any thoughts on the logo, sir?
I can't imagine a better draft than Oscar Robertson and Jerry West. I'm not a draft historian, but I would suspect that you're not going to find a better year than that. Having never really been a fan of the Lakers or any of the teams that he's been affiliated with, I didn't always pay attention to what he did, but he was always there, and his teams were always there. And I think one of the things that probably sticks out more than anything else is that you don't get to stick around that long unless you're willing to adapt as the game adapts. And obviously he was able to do that because he has 9 rings, and most of those rings came with him as a front office guy. And one of them was with the Warriors. And, his time with the Warriors obviously is going to be very different than, when he was first the GM of the Lakers. So, I mean, it's a loss for the game. Unfortunately, he's not going to be there to see, to be enshrined for a third time. But that's, one of the game's all-time greats in many ways.
Right. George, you grew up during the Showtime era, and Jerry West was the puppeteer behind the scenes. Any thoughts on Jerry West, sir?
Yeah, some people just have a knack for things. And then you got Jerry West, who has a number of different knacks, because not only was he a great player, but like in my lifetime, he's been the architect of so many great teams. And you start going to look back where, like, you go back, find out, see that he was at Golden State, and he helps put together Minnesota, and he goes all these different places. But the one thing he knew that you could see is he had an eye for talent. And not only that he had an eye for talent, but that he had an eye for talent that was going to fit whatever the mold that they were trying to create at the place he was at that point in time. His biggest one is then, and it's going to sound cliche, but to me, one of his biggest ones is to see already down the line how great the high schooler from Lower Marymount was going to be, and was doing everything to trade with Charlotte, because he was telling them, this is the best player in the draft, and this kid's going to be awesome. And by the way, that's got to be the second best draft to come out right there that he caught Kobe in anyway. So I think that the game itself is going to miss an innovator, a leader, and somebody that pushes the game into the next decade, millennium, and further on. He's that kind of person's hard to find. And this is after all the accolades he had while he was on the court. Because I've watched tape on him, and it was just he was incredible. He was incredible, playing in a time where you only didn't have but so many incredible players, or in our view, or especially playing above the rim. Jerry did what they wish they could do. So fiery competitor. So
Mike, you're a talent evaluator. And that's one of the things that I liked about working with you. Any thoughts on Jerry West?
I mean, just to keep yourself relevant for this long, and um, with the past generation with Kobe, like that was, and he knew. And we watched you watched the videos. A lot of them came up this week, but just knowing just how instrumental he was in basically giving the Lakers that next dynasty. So he was part of previous dynasties, part of a future dynasty. I mean, he's just did amazing things in so many different aspects of the game. So yeah, very impressive.
All right. And speaking of the Lakers, they have not been impressive in the last 2, 3 seasons post their COVID championship. So is JJ Redick dynamite? JJ Redick formally interviewed for the Lakers coaching position. We've talked about it 2 weeks ago, thinking JJ was going to get the job. Then we had the Dan Hurley detour. But now we've got JJ possibly by the time this show is out, being named head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. So, quick thoughts for me. For the amount of money they're offering, I have no problem being somebody's fifth choice or whatever choice is. The Lakers need direction, and the West is too good right now to just be mediocre. The question is your talent good enough to win? No. So now you've got to out scheme people, and that's kind of the Miami Heat way of doing things. JJ's a unique choice if he's selected, but if you do get the job, JJ, please put an old head next to you. Robert, any thoughts on the JJ Redick potential candidacy?
Only in the NBA can you never have been a coach and get hired to be a head coach. And I would hope that if they do hire him, that is one of the stipulations that is made, that it's like, hey, you need to find somebody to be your assistant who, I don't know, maybe understand. It's one thing to analyze NBA offense and defense. It's another to build an NBA offense and an NBA defense. And he's going to have to figure out how to do that. And it'll be interesting to see if he's hired, who's he going to have on his bench with him.
Mike, you have worked for, let's just say, multiple administrators in your career. Any thoughts about the Lakers pursuing JJ, and what kind of job do you think he would do if he got the gig?
JJ Redick has everything that the coach of LeBron needs. He had him on a podcast and asked him the hard-hitting questions like, why are you so great? Is it hard being as great as you are? He's a joke. I've hated JJ Redick before it was cool. I was those mean Maryland fans that made him cry. He hated us more than he hated UNC. I started to like his podcast, but now it's all like, oh, the 90s was terrible. This era is better. It's just all that nonsense. But yeah, he's perfect because he already gave LeBron like a puff piece interview. That's what he'll do as a coach. It doesn't matter who the coach is. You could put anyone there. LeBron's 100 years old, and like we said, the West has 8 teams better, so they could win a fake regular season championship and put a banner up, but they're not going to sniff anything that matters until they blow the whole thing up and get young players. It's going to take a while to be bad in LA.
George, please wrap us up before I start laughing.
Well, Mike got some personal issues when it comes to JJ Redick. I guess it was all them heartbroken times he hit big baskets against them back in the day. But
we did well
look. So anyway, this is this is me scratching my head. I wanted to ask, by the way, when you were talking about teams in the West earlier who we need to look out for, you left the Lakers out. Why was that, Mr. Adams? I'm. They're not. You trying to say they're not contenders? They're not getting better.
Mike King said it impolitely, but yeah. What do you got, Rui Hachimura? I mean, it's going to be really hard for the Lakers to be top 6. And then when you're 7 through 10, good luck with that, because now you've got to beat people.
Listen, the only thing I have to say about this is I just want to send this out once this hits the wire. Any NBA player that would like to do a podcast with me where we can sit down and break down film or whatever, just let me know so we can, I can step into a role with the next organization you go to. Because I mean that's basically what it is. I'll tell you how great you were on this pick and roll. I won't even talk about how you missed your man on this backside screen over here. I won't even talk about a shot you missed. We'll just dissect it that way and show how good you really are and give me a job paying big money. This might be, but it's so LA. It's so LeBron LA. That's exactly what it is. You take a guy who has a name. JJ was a great college player, good NBA player. He knows the game. We're not doubting any of that, but this is so LA. It's the hot name. It's a kind of find a hot name. Let's throw him in the mix and just see what happens, just so to appease LeBron, because it's whatever LeBron wants. It's very interesting to me more than anything else is that where the Lakers have devolved from where they were. Never were the Lakers a situation where Kobe says it, this goes. Never were the Lakers where Magic says it, this goes. Never, hell, they traded Shaq when Shaq was the man, or just didn't give him the contract. So it's interesting to see where they have devolved to try to, I guess, buy a championship. And it's going to serve them the way it's been serving them the past few years. They're going to be at the bottom fighting for a spot in the play-in game. And if they get lucky enough to win a play-in game, because, LeBron and AD are good for one night and one game. But series-wise, no. I mean, it's par for the course.
All right. So when we get back, fans, in segment 3, we'll hit the W. Aces are struggling. We'll be right back on the Coaches Podcast.
The reviews are in for Dr. Keith Adams' book, Finding the Balance, My Personal Journey to Academic and Athletic Success. College professor and student-athlete academic expert Dr. Lisa Rubin said, "There is nothing out there like this book, so I do hope people will pay attention and give it a read." Former George Mason standout Folarin Campbell said, "Consider this book an opportunity to work directly with Dr. Adams, just like I did. I assure you that there will be something you can take away that will be useful to you throughout your personal journey." Ryan Waite, a recent college graduate who is a software engineer, said, "I like how the book is based on research, which makes it good for general students as well as student athletes." The book serves as both a memoir to Dr. Adams' 30-year academic and athletic career, as well as an instructional guide to assist student athletes, parents, coaches, teachers, and administrators navigate through the challenges of finding a better balance between academic and athletic success. The book includes over 15 personal stories and anecdotes from Dr. Adams, along with numerous former players and colleagues from a variety of sports and endeavors. You can order your copy at www.ckasaveproject.org. From the main page, simply click CKA Save Project Services and order the Find the Balance book. For more information, contact Dr. Keith Adams by email at cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Welcome back to the Coaches Podcast in segment 3, OCP WNBA Power Rankings. UConn. Connecticut 1, New York 2, Minnesota 3, Seattle 4, Las Vegas is 5 and falling. Phoenix is 6, Atlanta 7, Chicago 8, LA 9, Dallas is Indiana's 10. They're playing a little better. Dallas is 11, and our Mystics are 12, but they are on a 2-game winning streak. So who's hot? Connecticut, New York, Seattle, and Minnesota. Who's not? Dallas, Mystics, and Las Vegas. Robert, they're not doing well. A lot of uneven play early in the season. But hey, it is early, and I want to get to the story of the week. What do you want her to do? Caitlin Clark is still getting a lot of pushback, a lot of heat. She just pushed back on some online commentators who have used her name in discussions to just talk about racist type items, misogynistic type items. And she says that's not acceptable. And she does not want her name used to push those agendas. It's a lot going on, so I'm going to set the table for our panel. Caitlin Clark is 22 years old. She is trying to figure out in public who she is as a professional player and as a spokesperson for causes she didn't volunteer to speak for. At times, she will say the wrong things because you don't know what you don't know. She doesn't go into as much detail as people would like. I just hope that she has a great support team. And my advice to her, do the best you can. Robert, you're our administrator. You have seen this for the last 2 seasons that we've covered Caitlin Clark's career. You also hear the noise too. Any thoughts about what's going on with her?
Well, I agree with you. I hope that somebody in the Indiana organization, I hope she's getting regular coaching on that kind of thing, because she's going to need support in terms of how to address all this stuff. And I mean, there's a lot of noise. And like you said, she's a kid. You're 22 years, you don't know anything. You're still a kid. And I understand, like, when, DeJounte Carrington's, starts talking about, you have a platform and you need to use it. I don't disagree with that necessarily. But let her figure out her life a little bit first. There's nothing to say that going forward next couple years, once she figures out her game, once she gets her feet on the ground, once she figures out what she needs to do, nobody is saying that she won't do that. But she just got out of college. Let her figure stuff out.
Yeah. Mike, not only are you a great teacher, but you're a girl dad and your daughter plays basketball. From your lens, what do you think about all the things going on with Caitlin Clark?
I mean, in this case, I feel like this is a lot about nothing. She got a vague question. She gave a vague answer. She got a specific question. She gave a specific answer. People criticized her online who didn't see the questions, who just, you hear things, then you start tweeting, acting like she was coaching. No, she answered a question that was, we know the media is terrible. She gets a bad, like, vague kind of question. That's kind of how you give an answer. When she got one that had a little bit more to it, she was able to then go into the detail about, with her name and using her name. And then she gave, so I don't know if she's, I mean, every professional athlete needs to be coached on, what to say, because we live in gotcha times with the media. But I think this was a lot about a little. She responded to the questions the way they were kind of phrased. She's handled everything, I think, pretty well, considering, like, she's taken some shots and some things, and she just says basketball. She doesn't kind of, like, I know me personally, my temperament, I wouldn't be able to handle things as well as she is. I'd be like saying a lot of stupid things in the media. So I think at 22, I don't know if she's necessarily doing a bad job. I think when she got a real question, she gave a real answer.
Yeah. George, you're a counselor. You're a former athletic administrator. Like to give you the last words on Caitlin, how she's dealing with this, and any way you want to go with
it. Personally, I feel bad for her. And I feel bad for her because of who she is in the spotlight she carries right now. It has allowed many other people with other agendas to either attach themselves to her or use her as a sounding board of their agendas, which she has never endorsed, spoke about, or anything else. At the core root of it, she's just trying to play basketball. She understands her place. She understands she's a rookie. She understands she's trying to make her way in, but she's under such a microscope that whatever she does, says, or feel, whatever is going to be picked apart. I think I was reading on Twitter the other day about, and we discussed it. Why she, the reason it was, you can tell the reason she was left off the Olympic team. This was racial, or this was because of LGBTQ and stuff. And I was like, man, she didn't sign up for any of this. This is a narrative that's been created through people, the media, and all this other stuff. So I hope. I like how she's doing it. I like that she's sticking to basketball. Certain situations like this last one that came about, she was kind of forced into it because somebody was pushing an agenda publicly with her name that she had nothing to do with, but her name was being used. This is a wake-up call for WNBA, and that they need to have media people around that are savvy, that know how to spin these things and know what to do with them. And she needs to be coached on it, because this isn't going away anytime soon. This is going to continue. It feels like, and I know Mike might not remember this, but back with us, it feels like when Dennis Rodman made the comments about Larry Bird right after the series ended, and they forced Bird into making having to come out and making a comment with Isaiah, and they sent in the center left basketball and became something else. And I think a lot of that's has taken place with Caitlin Clark, where it's not about basketball. She's being used for other things to push other agendas. And she's going to need help navigating these waters, because yes, she did well on this last one, but we saw before where something little or small she says can be taken and spun a whole different way. So I hope they have people around her, like everybody else said, that coach her and have her ready for these kinds of situations, because they're going to continue.
All right. So to wrap up, fans, the 2024 NBA draft is June 26th, 8 p.m. ABC and ESPN, and June 27th, 4 p.m. So we'll do a full draft preview next week, and somebody's going to get fired for this, because this is going to be an interesting draft. Please pick right. So on behalf of our cavalcade of stars, I'm Dr. Keith Adams saying thank you for listening and/or watching the Odd Coaches podcast, and we'll see you on the sidelines. Till next time, take care.
The Odd Coaches podcast is sponsored by the CKA Save Project. The CKA Save Project is an industry leader in providing student-athlete academic and athletic support. From assessing student-athletes' academic and athletic skills, to measuring and monitoring student-athlete academic progress, to improving student-athlete time management and organizational skills, the CKA Save Project provides wraparound services for student-athletes from middle school through college. For more information, visit us on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org or schedule a free consultation with Dr. Keith Adams by emailing cka@ckasaveproject.org. We hope you enjoyed today's show. The Odd Coaches podcast drops new episodes every Tuesday through Friday on most weeks. Make sure you subscribe to the Odd Coaches podcast on Apple Music, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Spotify, and YouTube. Follow the Odd Coaches podcast on Twitter and Instagram at Odd Coaches. Follow Dr. Adams on Twitter and Instagram at CKA Save Project. In addition, follow Coach Mike Francis on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Franchise, spelled Coach FRANCHIZE. For more information about the CKA Save Project, please visit them on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org. See you next time on the Odd Coaches podcast.